Paul Newman was the epitome of Hollywood cool. An actor's actor, a celebrated philanthropist, a devoted husband, and a man whose piercing blue eyes seemed to hold a fundamental decency that the camera just adored. He was the gold standard, a figure of quiet strength and unshakable composure. It seemed like nothing could rattle him, that his famous cool was an impenetrable fortress. But one man, a rival claimant to the throne of cool, ignited a fury in Newman that simmered for years, a contempt so palpable it became the stuff of Hollywood legend. This man didn't just annoy Paul Newman. He burrowed under his skin, challenged his professionalism, and provoked a raw, undisguised contempt. This is the story of how Steve McQueen, with his ferocious ambition, his hair-trigger ego, and his desperate need to be number one, clashed with Hollywood's golden boy. It's a story of two titans, two icons, who were in many ways mirror images of each other, yet who were locked in a bitter rivalry that finally exploded on the set of one of the biggest, most dangerous, and most successful disaster films ever made. This is the story of a feud that ran so deep it defined an era. So, what could Steve McQueen have possibly done to make the unflappable Paul Newman see him as, in Newman's own words, total chicken shit? The answer is far more petty and far more revealing than you can imagine. To really get the animosity, you have to understand the men. On the surface, they were cut from the same cloth. Both Paul Newman and Steve McQueen projected an aura of effortless masculinity. They were the anti-heroes, the rebels with a cause simmering just beneath the surface. They shared sandy hair, magnetic blue eyes, and a genuine passion for fast cars and motor racing. They were Hollywood's twin kings of cool, two sides of the same very valuable coin. But underneath that shared surface, their worlds and their personalities couldn't have been more different. Paul Newman came first. He was 5 years older than McQueen and established himself as a serious, classically trained actor a full half-decade before McQueen broke through. Newman studied at the prestigious Actors Studio alongside giants like Marlon Brando and James Dean. He was a craftsman, an artist who wrestled with his roles and earned the respect of his peers through sheer dedication and talent. He was nominated for his first Academy Award in 1959 for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. By the 60s, he wasn't just a movie star, he was an institution. He was seen as a heavyweight, a dramatic actor of immense depth. His 50-year marriage to actress Joanne Woodward was often held up as a beacon of stability, but it was more complicated than the fairy tale suggests. Their relationship began as an affair while Newman was married to his first wife, and it weathered its own storms, including Newman's struggles with alcohol and reported infidelity. Then came Steve McQueen. His rise was grittier, forged in a difficult childhood that left him with a permanent chip on his shoulder. He was the ultimate outsider who fought his way up from the streets. His persona wasn't crafted in an acting studio, it was carved from his own rebellious life. He became the king of cool because audiences sensed it was real. He was tough, quiet, and radiated a dangerous energy. But with that authenticity came a deep-seated insecurity and a ferocious, all-consuming competitiveness. McQueen didn't just want to be a star. He needed to vanquish every rival. And in his eyes, there was no bigger rival than the man who already sat on the throne. Paul Newman. Psychologist Peter O. Whitmer theorized that McQueen developed a weird professional sibling rivalry with Newman, but it was a one-sided obsession. McQueen was intensely jealous of Newman. He was jealous of the critical acclaim Newman received, feeling his own talent was often overlooked in favor of his cool image. He was jealous of Newman's head start, the sense that he was always playing catch-up. This jealousy wasn't just a quiet feeling. It was an engine that drove nearly every professional decision he made. The first major flashpoint came in 1969 with a film that would become an all-time classic, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Paul Newman was set to play Butch. For the Sundance Kid, Steve McQueen was the top choice. It was a producer's dream, pairing the two biggest male stars in the world. But then came the negotiations. For McQueen, it wasn't about the art or the money. It was about one thing: billing. Who got their name first? Despite being younger and less critically decorated at the time, McQueen demanded top billing. He refused to be seen as Newman's junior partner. The studio, desperate to make it work, even proposed a wild compromise. Half the movie prints would have Newman's name first, and the other half would have McQueen's. It was a bizarre attempt to placate a massive ego, but even that wasn't enough for McQueen. He walked. The role, of course, went to a relative newcomer named Robert Redford. The film was a colossal success, cementing the Newman-Redford pairing as one of the most iconic in film history. McQueen, out of sheer pride, had missed out on a masterpiece. The incident created a festering wound. He had sworn he would never, ever appear below Paul Newman's name on a movie poster. This vow would set the stage for a conflict so intense it would become a cautionary tale of Hollywood egos gone wild. The early 1970s gave birth to the disaster film. After the success of Airport and The Poseidon Adventure, producer Irwin Allen was king of the genre. By 1973, two studios, Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox, were in a bidding war over two similar novels about a skyscraper fire, The Tower, and The Glass Inferno. Fearing they'd cancel each other out, the studios did something unprecedented. They joined forces. They'd merged the books into one colossal film with a massive $14 million budget called The Towering Inferno. Allen knew he needed the biggest stars in the world, which meant he had to finally land both Paul Newman and Steve McQueen. This time, the stakes were even higher. McQueen was approached first. True to form, he was incredibly calculating. He was initially offered the role of the architect, Doug Roberts. But McQueen, sensing more heroic potential, lobbied hard for the role of Fire Chief Mike O'Halloran, correctly guessing the fire chief would be the showier part. He got the role, which opened the door for Paul Newman to be cast as the architect. The stage was set. The two biggest movie stars on the planet were finally going to share the screen. But the battle had already begun. The first fight, predictably, was about billing. Both men, along with co-star William Holden, demanded the top spot. McQueen was still bound by his vow never to be billed beneath Newman. Newman, as the more established star, felt entitled to first position. The producers were caught between two immovable forces. The solution they devised is now famous Hollywood lore, a staggered but equal billing on the movie poster. If you read it left to right, Steve McQueen's name came first, but Paul Newman's name was placed slightly higher. Depending on how your eyes scanned the poster, either man could be seen as the top star. It was a ludicrously diplomatic solution to a problem of pure vanity, but the poster was just the beginning. McQueen, consumed by his rivalry, got a copy of the script and physically counted every single line of dialogue. He discovered that Paul Newman had 12 more lines than he did. For McQueen, this was unacceptable. Infuriated, he tracked down screenwriter Sterling Silliphant and demanded exactly 12 more lines to achieve perfect parody. He also insisted that his character get the very last line of the film. He got his wish. Paul Newman was, to put it mildly, disgusted. To him, a consummate professional, this line counting was the height of childish, unprofessional behavior. His lifelong friend, A.E. Hotchner, visited the set and later wrote about Newman's fury. Quoting the actor's now famous verdict on his co-star, he called Steve McQueen a chicken shit for his obsessive, insecure power games. The phrase perfectly captured his contempt. It wasn't just anger, it was a fundamental disrespect for McQueen as a person. The one-upmanship spilled over into the stunts. McQueen, the daredevil, insisted on doing as many of his own stunts as possible. Not to be outdone, Newman, also known for his stunt work, was determined to keep up. Their competitive machismo had real consequences. Newman suffered a significant burn, and McQueen badly sprained his ankle. During the shoot, a real fire accidentally broke out on a soundstage. McQueen, without hesitation, jumped in to help the actual firefighters put out the blaze. When a stunned fireman recognized him, McQueen quipped back, "Neither is mine," after the man said his wife wouldn't believe it. Despite the clashing egos and real danger, the film wrapped. The two stars were paid handsomely, each receiving a $1 million salary plus a percentage of the box office gross, though some sources suggest McQueen negotiated a slightly better deal. The towering Inferno became the highest-grossing film of 1974, earning 8 Oscar nominations including Best Picture and winning 3. The film was a smash hit, but the experience had solidified the animosity between its stars. They would never work together again. If you find the hidden dramas of classic Hollywood fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We dig into the stories behind the legends every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. The towering Inferno was a financial home run for both stars. Newman's take-home alone was an estimated $12 million, over $77 million today, but for him, the money didn't sweeten the memory. The experience was so tainted by McQueen's gamesmanship that it prompted a career change. He swore off taking roles just for the massive payday, pushing him back toward the character-driven work he valued. For McQueen, the film was the peak of his power, but also the start of a retreat. He took a 4-year hiatus from acting, disappearing from the screen at the height of his fame. He had fought so hard to be seen as Newman's equal by salary, billing, and even lines of dialogue, and he'd achieved it. But it seems the victory was a hollow one. The feud didn't end when the cameras stopped. Their rivalry even spilled onto the one place they should have found common ground, the racetrack. Both men were passionate and genuinely talented race car drivers. But here, too, their competition was fierce. McQueen was a natural, a gifted driver who famously performed his own stunts in Bullitt. He even finished second in the prestigious 12 Hours of Sebring race in 1970 while driving with a broken leg. However, that achievement needs context. His co-driver was the world-class professional Peter Revson, who did the lion's share of the driving to keep them competitive. For Paul Newman, racing was something else entirely, a calling he discovered in his late 40s. He approached it with the same meticulous professionalism he brought to acting. He wasn't a natural like McQueen, he was a methodical student of the craft. And he became exceptionally good, winning 4 SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, national championships, and running his own successful Can-Am and IndyCar racing team. He placed second at the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1979 and was still winning races into his 70s. Newman's decorated racing career reportedly infuriated McQueen. It was another arena where Newman, through hard work and discipline, had achieved a level of respect that McQueen craved. It was another silent victory for Newman and another source of simmering resentment for McQueen. In the years that followed, their paths diverged permanently. Newman built one of Hollywood's most respected careers, finally winning his Oscar for The Color of Money in 1986. He also launched his Newman's Own food company, donating all profits, hundreds of millions of dollars, to charity. He remained married to Joanne Woodward until his death in 2008, having built a life of substance and integrity. Steve McQueen's story had a more tragic end. He returned to the screen in 1978, but his health was already failing. In 1980, at just 50 years old, he died from a rare and aggressive cancer. There was never a reconciliation with Newman. According to some reports, as McQueen faced his own mortality, he regretted that they had never become friends. But by then, it was too late. When asked about McQueen years later, Newman's response was telling in its polite distance. He simply said, "I never really understood him. It was a quiet final dismissal of a man whose loud, desperate need for validation had caused him so much aggravation. The rivalry between Paul Newman and Steve McQueen remains one of the most potent in Hollywood history. It was a clash of titans, a collision of two monumental egos who were, perhaps, too similar for their own good. At its core, it was driven by the deep-seated, one-sided jealousy of Steve McQueen, a man who saw in Paul Newman everything he wanted to be and everything he felt he wasn't. He saw the critical respect, the establishment's embrace, and the quiet confidence of a man who didn't need to count his lines to know his own worth. The battleground of the towering Inferno became the ultimate symbol of their feud, a massive success built on discord and petty competition. The story of the diagonal billing and the counting of dialogue is now a legendary cautionary tale about the fragile vanity of movie stars. Paul Newman's chicken shit comment echoes through Hollywood lore, a rare crack in the cool facade of a man pushed to his absolute limit. In the end, their story is a fascinating look at fame, masculinity, and competition. They were two kings who could never share a kingdom. While their joint appearance on screen created cinematic gold, the personal cost was a relationship that never was, and a bitterness that lasted a lifetime. They remain frozen in time, the two coolest stars in the Hollywood firmament, locked forever in a silent, fiery rivalry. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this look into one of Hollywood's most legendary feuds, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let us know in the comments, who do you think was the true king of cool?